Gospel reading for today comes from John, chapter 18, verses 33 through 37. It's found on page 86 in your New Testament if you'd like to follow along. Hear the good news for this day. Then Pilate entered the headquarters again, summoned Jesus, and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "I'm not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here." Pilate asked him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." This is our good news for this day. Please pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Grace and peace to you from God, our Creator and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. I think all of you know by now that when I go on my sabbatical in June of 2019, the first place that I'm going to go is Assisi, Italy. And at a lot of these pilgrim meals, we finally did our last pilgrim meal. I talked to you, a lot of people, about why Assisi is important to me. It's a space where, in just a few moments, I went from agnostic to believer. All it took was a Franciscan brother speaking words he shouldn't have known, words he had only been given by God. And I was awakened to God. But the question came. The problem came. God had spoken to me. Now what? What was I supposed to do next? I had been given some taste of truth behind it all. Truth with a capital T. But what was I supposed to do with it? And how was I supposed to find more of it? Find more truth. Today's reading speaks of Pontius Pilate. It's a name we know better than we should. We say his name regularly. We do so whenever we confess our faith using the words of the Apostles' Creed. He suffered under Pontius Pilate. He was crucified, died, and was buried. Pilate's name, just before Jesus' death. Pilate's name is the only name outside of the Holy Family that is mentioned within this creed that we say over and over again. Why is that? What's so important about Pontius Pilate? Pontius Pilate has some legends, if you didn't know. They're not recorded in our Bible. They're most likely legendary, but historians like Eusebius handed them on. It was believed that Pontius Pilate, after leaving his post in 36 AD, ended his life over guilt over what he had done. Other accounts have Pilate becoming a martyr for the faith, along with his wife, the one that had that dream about Jesus, where she told Pilate to let him go. The Eastern Church later labeled him a saint, Saint Pontius Pilate. And the Coptics even went as far as to make Pilate a baptismal name. Your life is transformed. You are now one with Christ, and we're going to name you Pontius Pilate. You can imagine the kids' one question. Why? What did he do? Ask questions of truth and kingship? Wash his hands? Why go to lengths to remember his name, to save his reputation through these stories that are most likely legendary? One reason that we go so far out of our way to remember and redeem Pilate is that Pilate is a historical figure. We have his name carved in stone. He, in many ways, validates the gospel witness. He actually existed. We know this. He helps to fix the greatest story ever told into its proper timeline. Another reason, and this is one that of these potential reasons is my favorite, but they say we have Pontius Pilate's name in the creed to stand alongside Mary, the mother of Jesus. Where Mary was young, female, poor, pregnant out of wedlock, socially and religiously suspect, Pilate was mature, male, wealthy, Roman, safely wed. Which one gets it right? Pilate allowed a holy and righteous one to be taken to the cross. But even that does not explain the lengths that people have gone to repair and fix the memory of who Pontius Pilate actually was. Yes, Jesus suffered under Pontius Pilate. Yet would Jesus blame it? If this death of Christ was preordained before time began, isn't Pilate simply part of the story? As Jesus came into Jerusalem to be crucified and judged and then crucified. The story seems to move like a play coming to its climax. The stories of how it would happen, the prophecies passed down through the centuries in the writing of Isaiah or Daniel, as we heard. To Pilate, he must go. Does Pilate need to be redeemed for playing his part? Maybe it all has to do with what Pilate and Jesus said to each other during their last meeting. What was their conversation really like? At times, Pilate seems almost bored. Oh yeah, and what is truth? He was a man above such foolish religious questions. Other times, he appears genuinely impressed by the responses that Jesus gives. Pilate tries to release Jesus with the smallest punishment that he can give him, but the mob will not allow him. Sometimes the Gospels say that he washes his hands of the whole punishment. Other Gospels don't. But eventually Pilate does hand him over. Suffered under Pontius Pilate. You can almost picture Pilate standing above Jesus, looking off into the distance. What have I done? None of these reasons are particularly good for why Christians have tried so hard to redeem Pilate. I think the real reason we focus on Pilate, try to see him changed after that meeting with Jesus, is that Pilate was truly the last person to sit down and counsel with Jesus before the whirlwind of his crucifixion kicked into high gear. In Luke, Jesus pronounces some things on the way to the cross, and in John, Jesus talks to Mary briefly, but this is that last true moment alone when he knew there was no going back. Those last moments were spent with one man, Pontius Pilate. And it's almost impossible for us to believe that nothing came from that visit. Who knows what Jesus said to him? Maybe it's just you say so. But Jesus is the man we call the Son of God. We fled to church every Sunday just to get a piece of him, a piece of his body, a piece of communion. To have stood before Jesus at that moment when there was no turning back, when Jesus' next steps forward would lead him to the greatest moment in human history. That sacrificial death. That sacrificial suffering. How could this man, Pilate, not be changed by standing in the presence of that. We have to believe that this meeting changed Pilate into what? We have no idea. That change into what is the hard part. In Assisi, I heard God speak to me. Okay, but what God? And what did that God want from me? I had to search for truth, the truth, the reality beyond our reality. A seeking that always begins with God touching us, getting our attention. And then we set out, seeking, thinking we are the detectives, all the while God is going ahead of us, placing little clues for us to find. A little bit of that next for us to unearth so that we can grow in our faith, in our meaning, in our purpose in this world. The search for truth is hard. To try to put our finger on the true reality that is absolutely true and not just an opinion and not just me telling me what I want to hear. Trying to find that truth has pushed more than a few people over the edge. We want to sit in that room alone with Jesus, take the place of Pontius Pilate, and just finally ask all those questions. Which truth is the right truth? When we look at the population around the globe, the people that believe they have found the truth, there are not a few options, but thousands of options. There's Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, there's Islam, Judaism, and an endless variety of Christianities. Which one of the thousands of religions was right, exactly right? Which one was the truth? When I think back to how I came to have my faith jump-started in Assisi, Italy, there wasn't one eye-popping moment that led me to the final, real, undeniable truth. I didn't suddenly understand, okay, there's a God, and that God is the God of Christianity, and that Christianity, the right Christianity is Lutheranism, and not just Lutheranism, but ELCA Lutheranism, and not just ELCA Lutheranism, but West Coast ELCA Lutheranism. No, that didn't happen. I have a serious question for you, and I want you to think about it, because it comes from the words of Jesus in our reading for today. How does someone belong to the truth? I'll ask that again. How does someone belong to the truth? Is it always being correct, never getting anything wrong? No. It's in the seeking of the truth that you belong to the truth. It's being willing to be changed by the truth that you testify to the truth. It is a person like the Pontius Pilate of legend that converted to Christianity, that became a saint, that announces for all now the truth that surpasses all understanding. We need Pilate to have changed, because then we have the ultimate example of what we're called to do and be as seekers of the truth. When the divine rushes into your life, be changed by it. And then be willing to be changed again and again. Allow God to continually speak in your life. After Assisi, I looked long and hard for the truth. It was not always fun. In fact, many times it was terrible. And following the calling of Jesus to be a seeker of the truth, I'm still looking. Not because I feel lost, but I know that God always has something next to say in our lives. Every single day I think about the symbols, the doctrines, the realities of our faith. What is gained in baptism? What are we eating in communion? What does it mean to profess that God is three in one? How do I make that real for me today? One of the greatest things about Christianity is that it lends itself to a repeat look, to continue a quest for absolute truth. Our faith is based on a desire to know the truth, to know fully the divine, and beyond all understanding, beyond all things that make sense, beyond all earthly truth. We have somehow seen the face of God, and that has changed us into all that we will ever need to be. Through the life and death of Jesus Christ in this Pontius Pilate that he witnessed, we are set free from worry, set free from getting the truth wrong. Jesus died for you, rose for you, so that even when you get things wrong from time to time, even when the truth slips through your fingers from time to time, we are still able to continue to seek, continue to find clues that God has laid for us, so that we might become people of truth, true children of God. Amen.